He told me I would be nothing without him while he was wearing an orange jumpsuit. That is the part that still makes me laugh sometimes. Not the real, happy kind of laugh. The kind that bursts out when the joke is on the person who doesn't know the punchline has already landed on them. He sat there on the other side of the thick glass, a phone pressed to his ear, chain around his waist, and said, "Come on, babe, you can't do this without me. You'd be nothing out there on your own." I looked at him, at the man who used to walk into restaurants like he owned them, now asking me to pay for his lawyer, and I thought, you really have no idea what I've been doing all this time, do you? If you are watching this right now, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. USA, Canada, the UK, Australia, or somewhere else. And while you listen, ask yourself this. Has anyone ever told you that without them you'd be nothing, and did a part of you believe them? My name is Karen. I'm 51. When I was 26 and first met Michael, I thought he was the strongest person I had ever known. He was tall, charming, and loud in that way that made people turn and pay attention. He worked in finance back then, some department I didn't really understand. He said things like markets and portfolios and risk profiles. I was a nurse on a busy medical ward. I dealt in human bodies, not in numbers. We met at a friend's barbecue. He was telling a story about landing some big client, and everyone was laughing. I was by the food table, spooning potato salad onto my plate, when he came up beside me and said, "You've been quiet. That's dangerous. Quiet ones always judge the loud ones." I smiled. "Maybe I'm just listening," I said. "Same thing," he replied, grinning. "What do you do?" "I'm a nurse," I said. "So you're the real adult in the room," he said. "I just move imaginary money around, you actually save people." No one had ever said it like that before. It felt good. I liked that he respected what I did. At least, I thought he did. We started dating. He loved big gestures. Surprising me at work with flowers. Booking last-minute weekend trips. Leaving little notes in my bag that said, "You're the best thing I ever did." He also loved to talk about the future. "In 5 years, I'll be one of the top guys at my firm," he'd say over dinner. "We'll have the big house, the nice car, you won't have to work nights anymore. I want to take care of you." That line hooked into something deep inside me. I grew up in a house where my mother did everything. My father worked, yes, but he also drank. He never came to school plays. He never asked my mother how her day was. She cooked, cleaned, stretched every dollar until it screamed, and no one ever said, "I will take care of you." So when a man looked me in the eye and promised that, I wanted to believe him. We got married 2 years later. Small wedding, mid-sized dreams. At the reception, he clinked his glass and said, "To my wife. The woman I'm going to spoil so she never has to worry about anything again." People cheered. My mother wiped away a tear. Afterwards, she pulled me aside. "He seems very sure of himself," she said. "That can be good or it can be dangerous. Make sure you always know where the money is, Karen." I laughed. "Mum, it's not like that," I said. "We'll share everything." She looked at me with that sad little smile older women get when they see their own younger self in someone else. "Just promise me you won't sign anything you don't understand," she said. "And if someone ever tells you you'd be nothing without them, remember you were something before they showed up." I promised. I meant it. But promises you make in white dresses are easier to keep when you haven't yet been worn down by years of, "I'll handle it." In the first years of our marriage, life felt like a climb. Hard work, long days, but always moving up. I worked shifts at the hospital. He worked long hours at the firm. We rented a small apartment and dreamed of something bigger. It was hectic, but it felt like we were on the same team. We argued over stupid things like whose turn it was to do the dishes, but when it came to big things, he was generous. "Keep your money for fun," he'd say. "I'll cover the rent and bills. You deserve to buy yourself something nice once in a while." He pushed my hand away from the check at restaurants. "My treat," he'd say with a wink. It made me feel special. It also slowly took me out of the habit of looking at numbers. When I got pregnant with our first child, he was over the moon. "Our little heir," he joked, kissing my belly. "You know what this means, right? You should quit that crazy hospital job and stay home. At least for a while. The hours are brutal. The pay is trash. Let me do what I do best." "You do what you do best." "What do I do best?" I asked. "Take care of people," he said instantly. It sounded sweet. It also made it very easy for him to nudge me out of the workforce and into the role that would later make it easier to tell me I'd be nothing without him. I went on maternity leave, then extended it, then didn't go back. It wasn't just his pushing. I loved being with our baby. I loved not waking up at 3 in the morning for a night shift, not dealing with short staffing and rude patients. There were long, lonely days too, but I told myself this was right. A good mother is there. A good wife lets the man who says he'll take care of her do so. When I worried about my license expiring or my skills going rusty, he'd say, "You can always go back later if you want. For now, enjoy this." Most women would kill to not have to work. When our son was 3, our daughter was born. By then, we had moved into a big house in a nicer neighborhood. 4 bedrooms, granite countertops, a yard with a swing set. I remember standing in that kitchen the first week thinking, we made it. This is what he promised. He had gotten a promotion. His suits got more expensive. Our vacations got nicer. Newer cars. Better wine. Christmas presents that made the kids' friends jealous. When I asked, "Are we sure we can afford this?" he would wave a dismissive hand. "Babe, relax," he'd say. "I make more in a month now than I made in a year when we met. Trust me. I know what I'm doing. I do money. You do everything else. It works." At first, it did work. The mortgage auto-drafted from an account I didn't log into. The credit cards got paid. The lights stayed on. Groceries showed up, kids went to private lessons, we flew to Florida in the winter. I ran the house like a small hospital, except no one called me nurse anymore. They called me mom, honey, or have you seen my keys? Somewhere along the way, money became his domain. If I asked about something, he would sigh. "Do you really want to get into this?" he'd ask. "It's so boring. I'm trying to protect you from stress. Isn't that what you wanted?" It made me feel childish to insist. So I stopped insisting as much. The first time he said something like, "You'd be nothing without me," it was a joke. At least, that's what I told myself. We were at a dinner with some of his colleagues. Their wives were there, all in pretty dresses. One of the men said, "I don't know how my wife does it. She handles everything at home, and I just show up with a paycheck." Everyone laughed. Michael put his arm around me. "Same here," he said. "She runs the whole ship. If she left, I'd be eating cereal for dinner every night." Then he smirked. "If I left, though, she'd be broke. She'd be nothing without my spreadsheets." The table laughed. I laughed too, a little, because people were watching. Later in the car I said, "I didn't like that joke." He looked surprised. "It was just banter," he said. "Loosen up. Everyone knows you're the queen. I'm just the bank. Just the bank." That sounded harmless enough back then. And I did, in some part of me, feel like he was the one standing between us and disaster. When the 2008 crisis hit, and his firm had layoffs, he survived. When other people lost houses, we stayed. He liked to remind me of that. "If it weren't for me," he'd say, "you'd still be in that little rental. You owe me a thanks every time you walk into this house." I always said, "Thank you," half joking, half serious. I didn't realize I was laying bricks in a cage. If you're still listening and a part of you recognizes this pattern, someone being the bank and using it like a crown, right, I see it in the comments. Seeing it is the first crack. The cracks matter. The real beginning of the end was not the jail or the orange jumpsuit. It was an email. A simple corporate-looking email with a subject line that made my stomach drop. Notice of account irregularities. I was in the kitchen, checking messages on my phone between loads of laundry. The kids were at school. Michael was at a meeting. The email was from Michael's company. It said there were questions about certain client accounts, that there would be an internal investigation, that employees were reminded of their obligation to cooperate. That was all. On its own, it might not have meant much. But attached to it was another email forwarded accidentally from his assistant with just 3 words. "This looks bad." I called him. "Did you see this?" I asked. "It's nothing," he said quickly. "Standard stuff. Don't worry about it. Why are you reading my work email anyway?" "It came to our home account," I said. "That's why. I told them not to do that," he muttered. Then louder, "Karen, honestly, it's nothing. They audit all the time. I'm the golden boy. They're not going to come after me." The way he said "come after me" made my skin crawl. A month later, they came after him. It was a Tuesday morning. I remember because I had just taken a casserole out of the oven to cool for a church potluck. There was a knock at the door. Not a polite, neighborly knock. A firm, repeated knock that sounded like an order. When I opened it, there were 3 people standing there. 2 men in dark suits, 1 woman with a badge on her belt. "Mrs. Taylor?" one of them asked. "Yes," I said. "Can we speak with your husband?" he asked. My heart started pounding. "He's at work," I said. "What is this about?" "We need to speak with him regarding an ongoing investigation," he said. "And we will need to ask you some questions as well." The next hours felt like a dream. Calls. Movement. People in suits in my living room. Michael being brought back from his office in handcuffs. Papers. Computers. Boxes. The words fraud, misrepresentation, client funds, illegal transfers. I kept hearing phrases like years of activity and significant sums. I also heard my own voice, weak and repetitive. I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know. They asked me if I had signed certain forms. Accounts opened in my name. Lines of credit. I didn't recognize half of them. Did you sign this? They asked, holding up a piece of paper with my scrawled name. It looked like my signature, sort of. But the date was a day I knew I had been in the hospital with my mother. I don't remember this, I said. I don't think I did. Your name is on the account, they replied. If these were unauthorized, you may be a victim as well. Victim. That word felt like a sweater someone else had worn before me. I wasn't sure it fit. Michael was taken away that same day. Neighbors watched from their windows. Children whispered on the sidewalk. I stood on the porch, arms wrapped around myself, watching the man I had built a life with be put in the back of a car. As the door closed, he looked at me. His eyes were wide, angry, pleading. I had no idea then that this was just the first time I would see him like that. The first night alone in that big house, after the agents left and the kids were in bed crying themselves to sleep, I walked through every room like a ghost. The kitchen with its expensive appliances and marble counters. The living room with the big TV and leather sofa. The home office I almost never entered, where he had handled things. It all looked like a stage set someone had walked off of. I touched the back of his chair. It felt wrong to sit in it. I did anyway. On the desk were stacks of papers, a mug with the logo of his firm, a framed family photo. I picked up the photo. We were at the beach, all smiling, sunburned. It looked like a lie now. The next day his lawyer called. A man I had met once at a company holiday party. Karen, he said, voice smooth, we're going to need your support on this. Michael will need to post bail, retain me for his defense. They'll likely come after assets. You'll want to protect as much as you can. The best thing you can do is stand by him. Stand by him? I repeated. He's been arrested for stealing money. Allegedly, the lawyer corrected quickly. And even if there were mistakes, that doesn't change that he's your husband, the father of your children. You don't want him to think you've abandoned him in his time of need. I hung up that call and sat very still. I thought about all the times I had heard, "We're a team," from Michael's mouth. All the times I had believed it. Now the team jerseys were off, and there were only suits and charges and numbers. I thought about my mother's words on my wedding day. Make sure you always know where the money is. And if someone ever tells you you'd be nothing without them, remember you were something before they showed up. From the jail, Michael called me as soon as he could. The number flashed as unknown. I almost didn't answer. Then I did. His voice burst through the line like a dam breaking. Karen, thank God, listen, this is blown out of proportion. They're trying to make an example of me. You need to get money together, call my sister. Sell something if you have to. I need a good lawyer, not just the firm's guy. I need you to handle things at home, pay the bills, make sure no one believes the worst. Did you do it? I asked quietly, cutting through his flood of words. There was a pause. Everyone does some version of this, he said. Pushing lines, moving numbers. I just pushed them more. It's not like I killed someone. I did it for us. For this life. You like your nice house, don't you? Your car, your vacations? My stomach twisted. I liked believing we could afford them, I said. I didn't like knowing they were bought with lies. He scoffed. You never wanted to know, he said. I offered to explain things and you always said your head hurt. You can't act all innocent now. We're in this together, whether you like it or not. There it was again. Together. Except together now meant I held the bag while he sat in a cell, and still somehow thought he held all the cards. If you don't help me, he said, his voice dropping to a lower, more dangerous tone, you'll go down too. They'll think you were involved. You signed things. Your name is on accounts. You think you can play the victim and walk away? Without me, you'll be nothing. You don't know how to survive in this world. I built it for you. That was the moment in the jail visiting room I told you about at the beginning. The moment when it hit me that the man on the other side of the glass, in his orange jumpsuit, genuinely believed his own story. He believed he was still the one holding me up, even as the ground under us both shook. If you're still here, listening to this part, I want you to remember something if you ever find yourself in a similar storm. When someone who has lied to you, hidden things from you, or used you tells you, you'll be nothing without me, what they are really afraid of is you finding out who you are without their story wrapped around you. At that point in my life, I didn't know yet how I would prove him wrong. I I didn't know if I could. All I knew was that I was tired of believing I was nothing. And tired of sitting quietly while other people decided what my life was worth. All I knew was that I was tired of believing I was nothing. And tired of sitting quietly while other people decided what my life was worth. The first thing I did after that call was not what he asked. I did not call his sister. I did not start selling things. I called a lawyer. Not his lawyer. Mine. I found her name from a coworker at the hospital who had gone through a divorce. She doesn't talk down to you, my coworker had said. She explains things so you actually understand. The lawyer's office was in a plain building over a dry cleaner. The waiting room had mismatched chairs and a plant that had seen better days. I sat there feeling like a fraud. I was not the type of woman who went to lawyers. That was always something other people did. People on TV. People whose husbands hadn't just been taken away in handcuffs. When she called my name, I stood up too fast and nearly tripped. Karen, she said, holding out her hand. I'm Melissa. Come on back. Her office was small, with a desk covered in files and 2 chairs that didn't quite match. She sat, opened a yellow notepad, and looked at me. Tell me what's going on, she said. So I did. I told her about meeting Michael. About quitting my job. About the big house, the big life, the money I never saw but always felt. I told her about the email, the agents, the arrest. I told her about the accounts in my name that I didn't recognize. The signatures that might have been mine and might have been his hand guided by memory. I told her about the call from jail. He said if I don't help him, I'll go down too, I said. He said I'd be nothing without him. She wrote as I spoke, her pen scratching quietly on the paper. When I finished, she put the pen down. Okay, she said. Let's start with this. You are not nothing. You are in a mess. But you are not nothing. And he is not the only one who knows how to survive. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Am I going to get arrested? I asked. I can't promise you anything, she said. But if your story is true, and if we can show you didn't know about the fraud and didn't benefit in a way that makes you look complicit, you are more likely to be treated as a witness or a victim than as a suspect. The key is cooperation and honesty. With me. With the authorities. What about the house? I asked. The bank accounts? Will they take everything? Some of it, maybe, she said honestly. If the government believes assets were bought with stolen money, they can seize them. They call it proceeds of crime. The house could be at risk. The car. Retirement accounts. It depends on how deep his fraud goes. My chest tightened. So I could lose everything, I whispered. You could lose the things, she said gently. But you will not lose yourself unless you decide you are what he says you are. I looked at her. I haven't worked in years, I said. I don't even know if I still know how. She smiled slightly. You cared for people in a hospital once. You have been caring for your family for decades. I promise you know how to work. We just have to redirect it. She helped me make a list. First, we would contact the investigators ourselves, let them know I had a lawyer and wanted to cooperate. Then we would gather documents, bank statements, tax returns, any emails or letters that showed I had been kept in the dark. We would also, she suggested, look into renewing my nursing license. You may need income that is yours from a place he never touched, she said. Going back to work will not be easy, but it will be yours. I walked out of that office feeling like someone had put a map in my hand. It didn't make the storm go away, but it showed me there were roads through it. At home, the house felt different. Not just because Michael wasn't there. Because I now knew that the walls, the furniture, the fancy kitchen, the manicured lawn, all of it might disappear. The kids felt it too. Our son, Jake, was 16. Our daughter, Emily, was 14. They had seen the arrest. They had seen their father on the news. Kids at school had already started whispering. Mom, Jake said one night, did Dad really steal? I sat them both down. Your father is accused of taking money that wasn't his, I said. He says he did it for us. That part is not true. He did it because he thought he could get away with it. People who break the rules often tell themselves pretty stories about why. It doesn't change the facts. Did you know? Emily asked, her eyes huge. That hurt more than the lawyer's honesty had. No, I said firmly. I did not. If I had, I would not have let him do it. I never would have agreed to this life if I'd known it was built on lies. Please believe that. They studied my face. For a long second I thought, they don't. Then Emily leaned forward and hugged me. I believe you, she whispered. Jake nodded slowly. Yeah, he said. Dad never let you look at the money stuff. He always said you'd mess it up. That was weird. It was more than weird, I said. It was control. And I let him do it because I thought I couldn't handle it. That was my mistake. I won't make it again. The investigators came back. This time, they sat me down at my own table and took my statement. I told them everything I knew. When they asked about the accounts in my name, I told them I didn't remember signing those forms and that I wanted to compare signatures. When they showed me transfers from Michael's business accounts to our personal ones, I said, I thought those were bonuses. He told me his firm paid him well. They watched my face as I spoke, looking for lies, looking for cracks. At the end, one of them said, Mrs. Taylor, if you remember anything else, call us. We appreciate your cooperation. It wasn't a promise, but it was better than handcuffs. In the weeks that followed, letters arrived. Freezes on accounts. Notices from the firm. A letter from the mortgage company saying payments were overdue. Without Michael's salary, the math was simple and brutal. We could not keep living the way we had been. I made a list of what we could lose. Big house. Second car. Private school. Vacations. Clothes from nicer stores. Then I made a list of what we had that no one could seize. My skills. My kids' resilience. A few friends. My own 2 hands. I called the nursing board. My license had lapsed. You'll need to complete a refresher course and some continuing education, they said. Then you can apply for reinstatement. It was not easy news. It meant time, money, study, working days and nights again. My back ached just thinking about 12-hour shifts. But something in me straightened up. Send me the information, I said. I also called the hospital where I had worked years before. The building name had changed, but some of the people were the same. The director of nursing remembered me. I heard about Michael, she said softly. I'm so sorry. I did not know, I said quickly. I believe you, she replied. Do you want to come back? The question hit me like a wave. I'm not sure if I can, I admitted. It's been so long. I'd have to get my license back, catch up. We have a reentry program, she said. It's hard, but we've had other nurses your age do it. You won't be the first. The idea of not being the first comforted me. Sign me up, I said before I could talk myself out of it. Going back to school at my age was humbling. I sat in classrooms with people young enough to be my children, learning about updated protocols, new medications, equipment I'd never used before. My hands shook the first time I inserted in 4 again. My instructor put a hand on my shoulder. Muscle memory, she said. It'll come back. At night, I studied at the kitchen table while my kids did their homework. We were 3 students in the same house. I suck at chemistry, Emily groaned one night. I suck at charting in the new system, I replied. We'll both survive. Money was tight. We sold the second car. We cut off cable. I cooked simple meals. Pasta. Rice. Beans. No more takeout. No more fancy wine. When bills came, I called the companies and explained. My husband was arrested. Our accounts are frozen. I'm studying to go back to work. Can we make a plan? Some said yes. Some said no. I learned to ask anyway. I learned to sit in discomfort instead of handing it off to someone else. Through all this, Michael kept calling from jail. At first, I answered most of the time. I felt guilty. I felt tied to him by vows and years. His tone changed as weeks went by. The arrogance softened at the edges. How are the kids? He'd ask. Did you get the bill paid? Did you talk to my lawyer? We need to present a united front, Karen. If you turn on me, it'll make things worse. I'm not turning on you, I'd say. I'm telling the truth. That should have been our united front from the beginning. When I mentioned getting my license back, he scoffed. You? Back in a hospital, he said. You're too old for that grind now. Your back will give out in a week. You're not built for this anymore. We'll see, I replied. The more he doubted me, the more I wanted to prove him wrong. Not to him. To myself. The trial came faster than I expected. They offered him a plea. Fewer years if he admitted guilt. More years if he fought and lost. His lawyer encouraged the plea. The evidence is strong, he said. The paper trail is clear. The best we can do is limit the damage. Michael didn't want to take it. I'm not a criminal, he insisted in one call. I'm a businessman. I took opportunities. Everyone does it. Everyone doesn't get arrested, I said. You're not being punished for being clever. You're being punished for being dishonest. In the end, he took the deal. 10 years. Maybe less with good behavior. Maybe more if he crossed someone inside. At the sentencing, the judge acknowledged the impact on the victims. On me. On the kids. Your actions did not just hurt your clients, she said. They hurt your own family. A wife who trusted you. Children who must now live with the consequences of your choices. When you tell her she would be nothing without you, remember that your crimes have taken more from them than her decision to stand up ever could take from you. Her words echoed in that courtroom. I wish I could say they pierced him. His jaw clenched. His eyes narrowed. He still saw himself as the center of gravity. After he was taken away, officially this time, with years attached to his sentence, I walked out of the courthouse with my kids on either side of me. Are we okay? Emily asked. We're not okay, I said honestly. Not yet. But we will be. One step at a time. We got in the car. I put my hands on the steering wheel and took a deep breath. You don't have to be strong all the time, Mom, Jake said quietly from the back seat. His voice was shaky but steady. I smiled into the windshield. I know, I said. But right now I need to drive us home. After that, maybe I'll let myself cry a little. We did cry. At home, behind closed doors, we cried for the man we thought Michael was, for the life we thought we had, for the security that had turned out to be smoke. Then we got up and did the dishes. Grief and chores side by side. That is how real life goes. Over the next year, my world tightened, and then slowly expanded again. Tightened in that we lost the house. Yes, the government took it. Part of Michael's plea deal included forfeiture of assets. Proceeds of crime. The phrase made me want to throw up. But there it was. Our big house, our expensive furniture, our high-end TV, all seen now as part of a lie. We had to move into a small rental. 2 bedrooms. Thin walls. No granite countertops. No prestige. Just a place to sleep, to cook, to breathe. Expanded in that I went back to work. I finished the refresher program. I passed my exams. I got my license reinstated. The day my nursing badge with my name on it slid across a desk into my hand, I felt more pride than I had felt in a decade. It was a rectangle of plastic. But it was proof of something he could never give me, and therefore could never take away. My first shifts back at the hospital were brutal. My feet screamed. My back throbbed. The new computer system made me feel like an alien. But when I walked into a room and saw a scared patient look up at me with that "please help me" expression, something old and strong inside me woke up. I knew what to do. I knew how to calm a panicked heart. I knew how to explain a procedure so it made sense. I knew how to hold a hand and say, I'm here. At the end of those shifts, I was exhausted. But it was a different kind of exhausted than the one I'd felt for years at home. This one had meaning attached. One evening, a few months after I went back, I was sitting at our little rental's kitchen table paying bills. There were not many numbers. My paycheck. Rent. A smaller car payment. Utilities. Groceries. It was tight, but it added up. For the first time, I could see the whole picture without anyone saying, "Don't worry about it." My phone buzzed. A call from the prison. I hesitated. Then I answered. "Hey," Michael said. His voice sounded different now. Less slick. More flat. "Heard you're back at the hospital." "News travels," I said. "Yeah," he said. "Your sister posted something on Facebook. Said she's proud of you. Working double shifts. Paying your own way." People commented. There was a tone in his voice I couldn't quite place. "Bitter? Jealous? You always said I couldn't do it without you," I said. "Looks like you were wrong. You think working yourself to death for peanuts is winning," he snapped. "You could have had the big life if I'd just looked the other way while you stole." I interrupted. "No, thank you." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said the line again one more time, as if saying it enough could make it true. "You'd be nothing without me," he muttered. I laughed. It surprised both of us. "Michael," I said, "look around you. Where are you?" Silence. "In here," he admitted. "And where am I?" I asked. "Out there," he said reluctantly. "Working. Paying my bills. Raising our children. Breathing fresh air every day. Signing my own name on my own paycheck. Because of me," he said, clinging to the narrative. "I set you up for that life." "No," I said softly. "In spite of you." There was a long pause. Finally, he said, "Do you ever think about us?" "I think about the woman I was when I met you," I replied, "and the woman I am now. And I think the first one would be very proud of the second for finally remembering she existed before you." "So that's it?" he asked. "You're done?" "I'll bring the kids to see you if they want," I said. "I won't stop them. You're still their father. But I'm not your safety net anymore. I'm not your banker. I'm not your alibi. Whatever you are in here, whoever you tell stories to about the life you had, leave me out of it." I hung up. My hand shook a little. I half expected the ceiling to cave in, as if saying those words would break some unspoken rule of the universe. It didn't. The ceiling stayed. The room was quiet except for the hum of the fridge. My kids were in their bedrooms doing homework. The pile of bills still sat on the table, but they looked smaller now. If you are listening and someone in your life has spent years telling you, you'd be nothing without me, I want you to take a breath and ask yourself one simple question. What have you been doing every day that they don't see? Have you kept a home? Earned a paycheck? Raised children? Cared for parents? Supported friends? Survived illness? Those things are not nothing. They are evidence. Evidence that you, by yourself, have weight in this world. 2 years after Michael's sentencing, I stood in line at a small title office with a folder in my hand. Inside was a contract for a tiny condo of my own. Smaller than our rental. Older. The carpets weren't great. The appliances made noises I didn't like. But it was mine to choose. Mine to accept. Mine to reject. When they called my name, I sat at the desk. The clerk slid the papers toward me. "Sign here, Ms. Taylor," she said. I took the pen. My hand shook again. But this time I recognized the tremor. It was the same one I'd had the first time I put in 4 after years away. Fear mixed with something else. Power. I signed. "Congratulations," the clerk said. "You're a homeowner." For a second I heard Michael's voice in my head. "You'd be nothing without me." It sounded small and far away, like a radio in another room. I walked out of that office into the sunlight and felt it on my face. I texted my sister. "Got the keys," I wrote. She replied with a string of heart emojis and, "Mom would be so proud." That night, I sat on the floor of my empty condo with a cup of tea, back against the wall. The room echoed slightly. No furniture yet. No kids' artwork. No evidence of my life. Yet, I thought about everything I had lost. The big house. The illusion of safety. The version of my husband I thought I married. Then I thought about what I had gained. A job I was good at. A spine I could feel. 2 children who had watched their mother fall down and get back up in front of them. Not because a man caught her, but because she learned to stand. People love to say, "I made you," when they feel their power slipping. Parents say it to kids. Bosses to employees. Lovers to each other. "I made you what you are." If anyone ever says that to you, remember this. They may have influenced your path. They may have opened doors. They may have hurt you into changing. But you walked. You bled. You healed. You chose. They did not make you. You did. My husband said I'd be nothing without him. Then he went to jail. Then I went back to work, to school, to the bank, to the title office. I paid my bills. I raised my kids. I signed my own deed. I am not rich. I am not on a magazine cover. But every time I see my name alone on that piece of paper in my drawer, I know this. I am not nothing. And if there is one thing I want you to take from my story, it is this simple sentence that I wish I could whisper into the ear of my younger self at that barbecue where he first charmed me. You were someone before him. You will be someone after him. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. Years later, when people hear my story, they always ask me the same 2 questions. First, did your kids forgive him? And second, did you ever fall in love again? The answers are not simple. Real life rarely is. Jake was the first one to visit his father in prison without me. He was 18 by then, taller than Michael, shoulders wide from the gym, eyes older than they should have been. He came home from that visit and sat down at our small kitchen table, staring at his hands. I poured him a glass of water and waited. "He still thinks he's the main character," Jake said finally. I smiled a little, recognizing the phrase from something he must have picked up online. "What did he say?" I asked. "He talked about appeals," Jake said. "About how unfair the judge was. How his lawyer was an idiot. How his clients were greedy and should have known there's always risk. He said you turned everyone against him. That you're playing the victim." My chest tightened. "What did you say?" I asked. "I told him I was there when the feds came to the house," Jake replied. "I saw the papers. I heard the calls. I told him you didn't know. That if you had, you would have stopped him." He rolled his eyes and said I was naive. So I said, "Maybe. But at least I'm not a criminal." I couldn't help it. I laughed, a short, startled sound. "What did he do?" I asked. "He banged the table," Jake said. The guard looked over. He calmed down. Then he said, "You'll understand when you're older." Jake shook his head. "I'm old enough," he said. "I'm old enough to know I don't want to be like him." Emily had a different reaction. She did not visit at first. She wrote letters. Short, careful ones. "Dear Dad, I hope you're okay. School is fine. Mom is working a lot. I miss when things were normal. Love M. He wrote back pages and pages, full of his version of the story. At first, she would bring them to me, eyes full of questions. He says they set him up, she'd say. He says you could have helped more. I would take a breath and say, he is telling himself a story that makes his choices hurt less. You don't have to accept it as your only script. Over time, her letters got shorter. His got more desperate. Please come see me, he wrote. Please tell them I'm not a bad person. Please send money from my account. Please. One day, she put one of his letters in the trash without reading it. I'm done being his mirror, she said. I did not tell her to change her mind. Some distances are healthy. We built a new kind of family. Smaller. A little shaky at times. But more honest. On my days off from the hospital, I cooked simple meals and we ate around a smaller table. We talked about bills. I showed them how to read a statement. I told them about the importance of their own names on their own accounts. If you marry, I said, share your life. Don't disappear into someone else's. They rolled their eyes sometimes the way teenagers do. But later, when my daughter got her first job, she came home with her pay stub and said, "Can you show me how to open a savings account? In my name." We sat at the laptop together and did it. It felt like a small, quiet victory. As for love, that question sat in the background of my life like a song from another room. At first, the idea of dating again disgusted me. I was tired of men who thought they were the sun. I was tired, period. I poured everything into work and my kids. People said, "One day you'll meet someone who deserves you." I nodded politely and thought, I already know someone who deserves me. Me. But time is a strange healer. Years passed. The chaos of the fraud and trial faded into something less sharp. I saw other couples at the hospital. Some kind and patient with each other. Some cruel in ways that made me want to shake the partner who stayed. I watched. I learned. I thought a lot about what I had missed the first time around. I realized that what I wanted more than romance was companionship that did not require me to shrink. I met Daniel at a community education class. I had signed up for a basic computer course for older adults to improve my charting skills and maybe finally understand what my kids meant when they talked about the cloud. He was in the same class because, as he put it with a grin, I'm tired of acting like I understand what my grandkids are talking about when they say send it to me. He was 60, widowed for 5 years. He had worked as an electrician. His hands were calloused. His laugh lines were deep. He asked me after the third class if I wanted to get coffee. I hesitated. Then I said yes. We met at a small cafe. The same one where I had once met my kids to talk about their father's sentencing. Life likes to reuse settings. The difference was that this time, my heart was not in pieces. It was cautious, but whole. We talked about simple things. Work. Hobbies. His daughter. My kids. At some point, he said, I heard about your ex Joan from the class told me. I hope you don't mind. People talk. I stiffened a little, ready to defend myself. I didn't know, I said quickly. I believe you, he replied. You don't sound like someone who'd sign up for that ride on purpose. He said it so simply without me having to justify that something unclenched in my chest. We went slow. Coffee. Then walks. Then dinners. Months before he ever set foot in my condo. When he did, he stood in the doorway and said, Nice place. I laughed. It's small, I said. Mine is smaller, he replied. But I like knowing where the walls are. We shared stories. About our first marriages. Our mistakes. Our pride. Our children. He never once said, Let me handle that, when a bill came. He said, Do you want to look at this together? He never once joked that I'd be lost without him. He said, You seem to be doing fine on your own. I'd just like to walk next to you for a bit, if you'll let me. That's the only kind of love I'd consider now. Not a savior. Not a builder. A walker. A witness. We have been together 3 years now. We don't live together. People find that strange sometimes. Why not combine houses and save money, they ask. Why keep 2 places? We smile and say, we like our space. The truth is, after spending half my life in a house that wasn't really mine, I need a place where every cup and pillow is something I chose. A place where if it all falls apart again, the only heart that gets broken inside those walls is mine. Sometimes when I come home from a long shift, feet aching, back sore, I stand in my little hallway and look at the name on my mail. Just my name. Not his. Not ours. Mine. Then I walk into my own kitchen, put the kettle on, and sit down at my own table. The papers there are mine. The bills are mine. The choices are mine. It's not easy. It's not glamorous. But it is mine. Michael will get out one day. Sooner than the sentence sounded, probably. Good behavior. Overcrowding. The system always finds ways. I don't spend much time thinking about that. He writes occasionally. Letters full of half apologies and half resentments. I hope you're happy, he wrote once. You and your little job and your little apartment. I read them. Then I put them in a box. I'm not sure yet what I'll do with that box. Maybe one day I'll burn it. Maybe I'll keep it as a reminder. For now, it sits in a closet, and I let its weight be separate from mine. If he ever shows up at my door, asking for a place to stay, for help rebuilding, for money, I don't know exactly what I'll say. I like to think I'll say calmly, I hope you find what you're looking for. But it's not here. I don't fantasize about slamming the door. Revenge is not the fuel that keeps me going. Self-respect is. If you are expecting a scene where I stand over him and say, look at me now, you will be disappointed. I don't need him to look. I know what I see when I look in the mirror. It's enough. If you have listened all the way to the end of this story, I want you to do something gentle but important for yourself. Take out a piece of paper. Write down 3 things you do every day that no one sees. They can be tiny. Putting the toilet paper on the roll. Checking your child's homework folder. Making sure the doors are locked at night. Feeding the cat. Changing the oil in the car. Calling your elderly parent. Then look at that list and say out loud if you can, this is not nothing. I am not nothing. The world will always have people who try to convince you that your value comes from them. From their love. From their approval. From their money. From their signature on a piece of paper. They will tell you that without them, you would disappear. My story is not here to make you hate them. It's here to remind you that long before they walked into your life in a nice shirt and clever line, you were breathing. You were surviving. You were making choices. You were something. My husband said, you'd be nothing without me. Then he went to jail. I went to work. I went to school. I went to the bank. I went to a title office. I went to a small computer class and met someone who saw me as an equal, not a project. I went home. My home. With my name on the door. That is not nothing. That is the quiet triumph of someone who stopped believing the worst story anyone ever told her about herself and wrote a new one instead. Thank you for listening. We have many more interesting stories for you. Kindly turn on the notification bell to receive our next upload. Remember to subscribe and leave a comment of what intrigued you in this story.